asking whether the restructuring carried out in Kisumu County, especially Chemili Moroni Mwani companies, and asking about the numbers and their payments. The total employees affected by the restructuring process carried out in Kisumu County is 1,743, broken down in following. 1. Moroni Sugar Company had 747 workers affected, with 312 being permanent and pensionable, 435 being term contract workers. Number 2, Chemelil Sugar Company had 903 workers affected, with 376 being permanent and pensionable, and 527 being long-term or term contract workers. Now, this is quite interesting. Mwani Sugar Company had 93 workers affected, but it should be noted that this was leased, or rather sold to, but was not leased, but rather sold to Crossley Holdings Limited in July 2025. The company requested all workers to apply for their positions fresh, but only 79 did so, and all the ones that applied were all absorbed. Nobody was fired. The ones who did not want to apply were given their dues and they retired. It is important to note that under the MOU, it was agreed that all employees would receive salary arrears, gratuities, and accrued leave, and salaries dues paid by the Ministry of Agriculture and the National Kenya Sugar Board in a structured and phased manner. The amounts paid, partial payments of salary arrears amounting to 1.8 billion, have already been made between May and August 2025. The balance, amounting to 3.8 billion, together with terminal bills and third-party deductions amounting to 50 billion, shall be paid in installments up to June 2026. The government is in process, and we don't have any dues that have not been paid as per the agreement. Question C, the third question, Mr. Speaker, sir. Whether we conducted any socio-economic impact assessment before approving the release, and if so, tell mitigation makers. The ministry did not approve or oversee the leasing process, and therefore did not undertake a socio-economic impact assessment. This was a baby of the National Treasury and the Ministry of Agriculture. Our job is to ensure that any process that is conducted after a decision has been made is in accordance with the Constitution and the law in terms of the rights of workers. The last question, the second last question. What immediate program has the ministry introduced to reskill, redeploy, or otherwise safeguard the livelihoods of the affected workers? In accordance with the MOU, and this was also part of the discussion, all workers will remain in employment for 12 months, where 80% will be absorbed, the 20% nearing retirement, opting out voluntarily, will be released with full compensation. Once a final list of retained staff is established, the Ministry of Labour, through the Director of Industrial Training, will collaborate with stakeholders to design and implement reskilling, retraining, and redeployment programs. These will empower affected workers with new skills and enhance employability in related sectors. The last question, Mr. Speaker, sir. How we are going to reconcile fiscal reforms with the constitutional duty of the Constitution for transparency, accountability, and responsiveness to prevent economic dislocation in counties. It is important to note that all decisions that are made in terms of relocating or folding or changing these companies and agencies and parastatals are undertaken by Cabinet, whereby Cabinet is able to sit down and look at the impact of movement of these organizations. As you have noted, Mr. Speaker, sir, the government is not winding down and closing parastatals that have major impact in counties. What we're doing is reorganizing, merging them to make them stronger so that we can have a government that is able to afford to run itself. I conclude, I submit, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Beatrice Akinyi, do you have any supplementary questions?
Honorable Speaker, having listened to the response from the CS, my supplementary question refers to the non-retained staff that at the end of the process are released back to their to the communities. What is the component of this full compensation you refer to? And is there a program that is designed specifically to very disparate? Honorable Speaker, thank you.
Honorable CS, you may proceed to respond.
Thank you, Madam.
Very disparate. Honorable Speaker, thank you.
Honorable CS, you may proceed to respond.
Thank you, Madam Senator. As much as possible, the ones who have not been retained have been the ones who are near the retirement age. But if there are others who do not fit and maybe cannot be held, because you cannot expect a company to just keep somebody and that person is not productive, because then you go back to the same cycle of failed organizations. They are being paid their full pension, they are being paid their salaries, they're actually being paid money to cover up for the amount of time they are supposed to have worked. So, you know, in lieu of their work time. So, for example, if you are released at the age of 40 and you are supposed to work up to the age of 15, you're compensated for the time that you have been let go. So it's basically you're being paid in advance for work that you will not do. So we had already factored that in part of the agreement to make sure that nobody is let out and then they wallow into poverty. So at times it is unfortunate that some people will get out, get the golden handshake, marry a second and third wife, a fourth wife, buy a big car, or go on holiday, as happens all over the country, and so they squander the money very quickly. One of the processes that we have done is, in terms of reskilling, is allowing some of these people who are out there who would like to come back to NITA and the TVETs to get new skills and get back to work. But they were not set out with nothing. They were let out with enough money to be able to live comfortably. I submit.
Senator Boni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the minister knows that the cabinet sat and made a decision on privatization. However, this was varied to leasing. Minister, since you sit in cabinet, why didn't you take the initiative to carry out a socio-economic impact assessment? You have now visited our people, families running into millions of Kenyans with challenges that must be addressed by the government. Why didn't you take the initiative?
Senator for Nairobi City County.
Speaker, I used to hear this thing called all-of-government approach shouted from podiums. I'm surprised that the CS in his response is actually telling us that we directed the questions to the wrong ministry, that we should have looked for the CS for Treasury, who were involved directly. Because he sits in cabinet, I think he should supply some of the answers to the questions that we are raising. CS, you have a responsibility as a government to protect your people, to find employment for them. And those that you found in employment, to try and sustain them in employment for as long as possible, because they are breadwinners for their families. When you allow private entities, such as these lessees, to be the ones to exclusively determine who they need to continue working or not, you are abdicating your responsibility. How is it possible, CS, that the government has no role whatsoever in making those determinations in order to protect its own people? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator for Tana River County, the Honorable Mungatana.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, listening to the minister, he gave a figure of 1,743 people affected in these redundancies. And the senator who was asking this question was specific about Chemilil, Muhoroni, and Miwani sugar companies. Mr. Speaker, what this Senate wants to know is whether there was full compliance of Section 40 of the Employment Act. It appears to me that this minister was giving us big figures, 1 billion, whatnot, but he's not telling us whether there was full compliance. In fact, Mr. Speaker, he's saying that there might be future payments. So the first issue is whether there was actual full compliance. The people who are let to go, 1,000, those are a lot of people. How many were actually paid? And Mr. Speaker, just complementary to that, of this minister to get those people reabsorbed into employment. Mr. Speaker, we need to be proactive as a government. You can't let more than 1,000 people unemployed, and then you are not giving. Don't give us figures. Tell us whether you have actually settled those people, because it's there. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator for Taita Taveta County, Senator Maruma.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. CS would want to know if the employees would be paid before they leave, and how much it would be, or they would be paid after. In fact, the CS should give us a list of how much each will get, because he has indicated that if you are 30 years and you're supposed to work maybe up to 60 years, then you'll be paid for the rest of the time that you're supposed to work. So how much will each person get as severance allowance? Number two, if they're not paid before they leave, we have an instance where medical workers were eased off in 2000. Up to now, they have not received their severance allowance. And some of them have died. Some of them are sickly now. They are quite old. An auntie of mine was working for Ministry of Health. Up to now, they have not been paid. So we want to know how much each would earn, when they would be paid, and in fact, they should enjoy their salaries before they are eased off, or and when they get their lump sum, that is the time when they can be let to go. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator for Nandi County, the Honorable Chiranke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.